If you're just jumping on with us now, or if you've been watching and you came in late, you're listening to America's Voice Now. We will be starting a brand new broadcast on KUNQ 99.3 on Monday. It's this coming Monday, folks. It's a brand new station we're adding to our lineup. We're grateful and thankful for those folks over there. Good people. We'll be on Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to midnight. And it will be a broadcast that will cover a vast area of south central Missouri. If you're in that footprint, make sure that you tune your radio station to 99.3 from 10 p.m. until midnight. It's an excellent opportunity for folks who have a day gig and can't listen to us between when we broadcast live at 8 to 10 a.m. And it's still early enough that you can catch it. Still get to bed and get up in time for the rat race in the morning. I'm talking to you today about the Ministry of Propaganda and how you are being manipulated, how you are being played like a pawn. And, what most people don't realize is that at some point in time, when this administration, and by the way, this isn't just limited to this administration. You've heard me say this 1,000 times, and if you're brand new to the show, let me inform you. I am not a political party person. I think both parties have betrayed us. And the simple truth is, I'm not biased at all towards one party or another. In fact, I hate politicians, period. In fact, I hate politics. What I believe in is patriotic Americans who stand up and are self-reliant and self-sufficient, who know the truth and are willing to speak it. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a nation of free men versus a nation of slaves. And I encourage you to be free. Free in your political ideas, free in your thinking, free in the education and the information and the motivation and the grassroots activism that you do every day within the circle of influence of people you know. Then expand that. Push the envelope. Open your horizons. Get out there and do something different. I'm only one person. But one person can reach millions. The truth is, we are fighting a battle that isn't clearly and plainly obvious to us. Kind of reminds me of this battle that we have with a nebulous group of extremists in the war on terror. In other words, all previous wars, when they were fought by countries, it was nation against nation, right? I mean, it was pretty simple. France was the enemy, Britain was the enemy, whatever the country was the enemy. But now we have this loose network of Al-Qaeda terrorist organizations and blah, 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 blah. There's no nation state to go after. You can't go and take out the president of a nation where these terrorists are holed up, because even when he supports them, he does it in a way that you can't pin it on him, right? So you can't just go in there and knock off the head honchos over in Iran, even though we know that they support Syria and Hezbollah and Al-Qaeda. You don't go to war against nation states anymore. Now you go to war against this nebulous phantom enemy. And the truth of the matter is, the battle we're engaged in every single day as American patriots is just as nebulous, because we're fighting against a nebulous phantom soft tyranny. And the enemy is everywhere. They are surrounding us. And we're frightened and we're overwhelmed. And we're backed into a corner. And every once in a while, the enemy approaches and we swing out with a stick and we crack it on the nose like a pack of wolves. And that particular wolf backs up, but as soon as that one backs up, 4 others run in. And boy, it's just, they're starting to get at us. The blood is starting to run. It's the death of 1,000 cuts. Where is it going? Where does it come from? How do we start it? How do we stop it? How do we help? How do we fight? We're out of resources. We're out of time. We're out of money. I'm not saying there's easy answers here. I'm just telling you that what we have is a nation in trouble. And when you are embattled and bewildered, the first thing you need to do is stop listening to the enemy. The enemy is those who would tell you this is all going to get better. Anyone who's truly intellectually honest and objective in the world of economics, the world of politics, the world of social interaction, social study, the world of religion, anyone who is truthfully, intellectually honest and objective, nonpartisan, non-biased, will tell you this is going to get a whole lot worse before it gets better. And one area where we are demoralized and don't even realize it is in our food. Do you know that a Chinese state-owned company, now, China is a communist nation. They are a nation state. Their official political stance is communism. Yes, they inject and play with capitalism in a limited way, but it's not really even capitalism. It's more like a modified communism into some sort of socialism, because even those companies that are independent are still influenced and or owned by the government. And the U.S. Committee on Foreign Investment approved a deal of $7.1 billion September 6th. Now that was, what, a week ago? 12 days ago, almost 2 weeks ago. Have you heard about this on the news? Bet you haven't, and here's why. The ministry is playing you. They only tell you what is sensational or fearful to encourage you to be demoralized and fearful. That's it. That which you should know about, you will never know about. The legalization of the use of propaganda against American citizens in the United States of America is only a formality because they've been doing it to us for decades. All they've done is simply legalized an already treasonous practice of tyrants. But the U.S. Committee on Foreign Investment approved a deal valued at $7.1 billion to allow China's Shanghai International Holdings, the Shanghai Group, to take ownership of Smithfield, Virginia-based Smithfield Foods. Do you know who Smithfield Foods is? They are the largest producer of pork in the United States of America. Now, they have a controlling interest. They purchased the whole thing out and out. Back in, back in May, they bought all the stock that they could get their hands on for $4.72 billion. And now, essentially, they've bought the rest of it. This is the biggest purchase of a U.S. company by a Chinese firm ever. Guess who controls Shanghai International Holdings? The Communist Party of China. Why don't they tell you that? I mean, even if you heard that they're buying it on the Ministry of Propaganda, they left out the salient point. They lied to you by omission by refusing to tell you that the Communist Party of China owns the company that bought Smithfield. Why does this matter? Well, number one, he who owns the food supply controls the people. Number one. Number two, pork is a huge percentage of the protein and the meat supply in the United States of America. I mean, let's be honest, this is not an Islamic country. Ham is pork. A lot of pork is used in other products that you don't even realize it's in there as a protein, injector and so forth. And they also, while they may be the largest producer of pork, own a ton of other products and food products that are unrelated to pork. Smithfield Foods is one of the largest food providers in the United States of America, not just of pork. So if the Chinese Communist government owns the largest producer of food in the United States, 2 + 2 always equals 4. I guess you can draw your own conclusions. It is a 100% takeover. It's not an investment. It's a takeover. They actually have said publicly that Shanghai's bid for Smithfield Foods represents a big step up onto the global stage for Chinese entrepreneurs who are emerging from the shadow of state-owned corporate giants. Really? This would tell you that Shanghai is one of the few enterprises in China that it's not owned by the state. It would lead you to believe that they're a private enterprise. That's a lie. They are 100% controlled by the Communist Party of China and the Communist Government of China. It's a state-owned business. And we allowed them to take over a significant portion of our food. And what are we going to do when they decide to move the company over to China? They're going to put it on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. So what does that tell you? What are you going to do, and what are we going to do when those remaining facilities that are here in the United States that haven't already been moved off to China are staffed and employ not average everyday Americans, but becomes a funnel point for Chinese immigration into the United States of America, illegal or otherwise? You don't put that past them, do you? I mean, really. You don't actually think they won't do that, do you? You see, the problem here is that on one hand, we're giving away those industries in the United States that have made this country great. We've already given away our manufacturing base. We've given away our manufacturing jobs. We've given away the financial sector. We've given away the industrial sector. Now we're giving away the food industry. And simultaneously, companies like Monsanto are destroying that which the rest of the country needs to survive. We are being forced daily to be pumped up with poisonous chemicals in our food, to be fed the poison that Monsanto has been given a green light to introduce into our food supply. If you're not aware of it by now, Monsanto, through the Monsanto Protection Act, which was promoted, sponsored, written, actually it was written for, but handed to him to act as if he had written, by Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri, a traitor par excellence, who pushed this thing through. They just recently got an extension on it. It was originally pushed through for 6 months. They renewed it for 3 more months. And at some point, it'll become a de facto, just either it'll constantly be renewed, or in some nebulous shadow meeting at 3 o'clock in the morning, they'll just make it permanent. And what this says is that Monsanto is protected from legislative limitation, criminal charges, and civil charges, even when the GMO-laden product that they lay before you is proven to be detrimental to the health of Americans. That has never happened before in the history of America. No company has ever been given license to be outside the law, either the judicial law or the legislative rule. Ever. But Monsanto has achieved the impossible by blowing up Roy Blunt's bribery-laden campaign fund, which in turn, by the way, a chunk of that went to Jason Smith, the rep for the 8th District. That's how he got elected, to replace Joanne the Traitor Emerson. That company, with the help of these politicians, have given Monsanto free rein to poison America. And it has never happened before. No company has ever been given a blanket dispensation from criminal, civil, or judicial or regulatory review. These guys can operate. They could put cyanide in there, and you would not be able to stop them legally, criminally, civilly, judicially, or legislatively. Who ever heard of such a thing? I mean, how much money did Roy get? Roy, how much money do you need to live out your pathetic, shameful life? If you'd have just come to us and said, look, Monsanto's offering me $1 million in a paper bag and, a couple of $100,000 in my re-election campaign, we would have conspired to each kick in $1 and you could have had $6 million as long as you would have retired. We would have probably paid you. It would have been cheaper in the long run. It'll cost me less than that. I mean, that would have been the cost of $1 for every member of my family would have been less than the cost of the doctor bills for eating the poison that they're inserting into our food supply. Why am I calling for a secession of South Missouri from North Missouri? Roy Blunt and Claire McCaskill and Jason Smith are the reason. That's it. Because they no longer represent us. And the House and the Senate in the state assembly, they no longer represent us either. They have a veto-proof majority. They tout that as if it was the crown jewel. And yet when they had to override the governor's vetoes last week, they couldn't do it. Politics and bribery got in the way, and again they betrayed us and sold us out. And now, folks, here comes the final part of this message. We got 5 minutes left. I'm going to make it count. The Department of Defense has come out and said that if you grow your own food, you are now labeled an extremist. You heard what I just said. If you grow your own food, if you are one of those pesky patriot types who grow your own food, you are labeled an extremist by the Department of Defense. That's not some shadowy, nebulous, left-wing progressive group. This is the physical incarnation of the federal government of the United States of America. And they are calling you an enemy of the state for simply growing your own food. You are an enemy of the state. The Pentagon has come out and said that our nation's founders are considered extremists. In a brand new training manual, they actually explicitly call our founding fathers extremists. Judicial Watch, which is a great group. If you don't know who Judicial Watch is, you should be paying attention to them. Visit their website. They obtained through a Freedom of Information Act a manual that was part of a 133-page document that was provided by the Air Force. But it was distributed throughout all the military organizations. It's just that the Air Force was the only one that they could get to give it up under the Freedom of Information Act. I think they filed with all different branches, and the Air Force was the only one that gave it back and came back with a response, which was this document. And it's called the Defense, and this was written in January of 2013. It's called the Defense Equal Opportunity Management Institute Student Guide. Who'd have thunk that the declarations of whom and whom is not an enemy of the state would be wrapped up in the Defense Equal Opportunity Management Institute Student Guide? The document does say that it's for training purposes only and not to be used on the job. Huh? I kid you not, people. You can't make this stuff up. You truly cannot. The manual defines an extremist as any person who advocates the use of force or violence, advocates supremacist causes based on race, ethnicity, religion, gender, national origin, or otherwise engages to illegally deprive individuals or groups of their civil rights. I would say that qualifies as the federal government personally, but that's okay. In addition, it also goes on to say, nowadays, this is their quote now, not mine. Nowadays, instead of dressing in sheets, they're affiliating this to the KKK, or publicly espousing hate messages, many extremists will talk of individual liberty, states' rights, and how to make the world a better place. Unbelievable. This is their quote, people. Nowadays, instead of dressing in sheets or publicly espousing hate messages, many extremists will talk of individual liberties, states' rights, and how to make the world a better place. So, does that not make virtually everyone then an enemy of the state? I mean, that makes Miss America, who's calling for world peace, an extremist and an enemy of the state. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. please find us on the web at AmericasVoiceNow.org. You can listen to this program live, 8 to 10 a.m. Central Time, by listening right there and watching the entire stream. You can find us at Facebook.com/America's Voice Now as well. We'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. Have a great day.